Good morning, everyone. I am Aminin Kasuya, your reporter number 5, and my topic is all about geological works of rivers. Erosion, transportation, and disposition are the three primary activities of a river. The development of the diverse platform by the flow of a river is the result of a combination of these three processes. When a river reaches the sea, the pace of the following water slow, and the river begins to break into many streams known as distributaries. The river then becomes a quite sluggish and begins to deposit its cargo. Each distributary has its own mouth. Those sediments from all of them combine to produce a delta which can be a triangular landmass. With the aid of numerous other elements, the river's rushing water erodes the Earth's surface, resulting in the development of the various platforms. The creation of the waterfall occurs when a river falls at a step angle over a very hard rock or down the valley aside. While entering the plain, the river twists and turns, producing numerous bends known as members or meanders. The end of the meanders will get closer and closer due to the normal erosion and disposition along the meander's margin. The meander slope eventually separates from the main river and produces Cut-off Lake. Also known as an oxbow lake, the river occasionally breaches its banks, producing flooding in the surrounding communities. It also deposits sediments, which are layers of the dirt and other debris along its banks as it floods. A fertile floodplain is formed as a result of this. These are the elevated banks on the both sides of the river. Furthermore, the movement of the rivers create a variety of landforms. Landforms are created as a result of the erosion process. Disposition, on the other hand, can result in the formation of landforms. The Hudson River in the New York, US is the best example. Rivers are vital to the water cycle because they serve as drainage routes of the surface water. Nearly 75% of the Earthland's surface is drained by water, or rivers. Many of the world's species rely on rivers for habitat and nourishment. They also serve as a great home for a variety of animals. Rivers are served as transportation corridors for exploration, trade, and pleasure. The river banks are the home of the docks, boats, otters, and many more. Many unique three functions of river. First is the erosion. The word erosion refers to the breakup of rocks caused by the dynamic action of any geometric agent such as flowing water, blowing wind, or glacier. It is often described as the totality of the process of the rock were caused by physical forces and chemical variables linked with natural causes. A river may erode in four ways. First is the abrasion, second is the attrition, third is the hydraulic action, fourth is the solution. When we say abrasion, it is the process slowly wear the bed insides away. Second is the attrition. It is when thrown against the side of the bed of the river, the load gets broken into smaller pieces. Third is the hydraulic action. It is mean the work of turbulence in the water. Running water causes friction in the joints of road. In a stream channel, joints may be enlarged. And the fourth is the solution. Certain mineral in a rock like limestone can be dissolved in the water. Rocks are then eroded. Transportation for waste. Sediment transport in the movement of the solid particles. Sediment caused by the gravity acting on the sediment and or the fluid in which the sediment is entertained. Traction. Larger and heavier rock travels back. Saltation. Smaller and lighter rock fragments and sand hope and bounce along the riverbed. At times of disruption between traction and saltation may be difficult to determine. Suspension. Some of the load, like set in clay, fine grain, will be float along. They may only be deposited when street velocity reaches near zero. Turbulence in the water is crucial in holding a load of sediments. Lastly is the solution. Some minerals are the transported dissolved form, especially chemical solution derived from the mineral like limestone or dolomite. The next is the disposition. Disposition is a geological process that involves the addition and sediments, soil, and rocks to a landform of landmass. Wind, ice, water, and gravity carry previously warm surface material, which is deposited when enough kinetic energy is lost in a fluid forming sediment layers. A river volume decreased when dry season, dry region with a high evaporation, presence of permeable rocks, receding flows. When it enters a lake, it enters a calm sea, it enters a gently sloping plain. Rivers are the waterways that transport surplus water from the land to sea. They erode valley and help shape the earth's surface in the process. They convey rock, debris, and dissolved mineral, and the majority of their sediments eventually end up with the sea. River actual activities, in conjunction with weather and wasting, outnumbers other kinds of erosion such as wind, ice, and sea erosion by the large margin. As a result, the rivers are regarded to be the most significant geomorphic agent in the deterioration of the land surface. Geological works of wind. Disposition is the geological process that involves the addition of sediment, soil, and rocks to the landform of landmass. Wind, ice, water, and gravity carry various warm surface materials which is deposited when enough kinetic energy is lost in the field, forming sediment layers. Wind is the term for air that is moving. Wind is one of the three primary drivers of the change to the Earth's surface, which the river glacier being the other two. Wind sedimentation, sediment source in nature, wind is an important agent of sediment movement. Erosion by the wind develop features. Wind erosion is generally caused by two processes. First is the deflation. Second is the abrasion. When you say deflation is the process of rapidly moving wind, eliminating lost sand and dust-sized particles from a region. Wind deflation can work in a comparatively dry areas with little or no rainfall and where the mantle is exposed due to the lack of the vegetation. When we say abrasion, the wind carrying such particles possesses a significant erosive force which aids in the eroding of the rock surface by rubbing and gritting processes, resulting in several modifications. Abrasion is the term for the form of wind erosion. As a result, vertical columns of the rock are more easily worn out towards their lower section, forming pedestal where their tops supporting comparably smaller bases. Pedestal or mushroom rocks are example of the sort of rock structure. Transportation by wind. The total sediment load carried by the wind can be divided into two parts, bed load, suspended load. The bed load is made up of the bigger and higher particles such as sand, pebbles that are pushed by the wind but not rise more than 30 or 60 cm above the Earth's surface. The suspended load is made up of finer clay or dust particles that have been carried hundreds of materials above the Earth's surface by moving wind. Disposition or sediment by wind and the developed features. The sediment get dropped in the deposit forming what are known as the eoline deposit. There are two types of eoline deposit. First is the sand dunes and second is the lowest. When you say sand dunes, it is the massive sand piles created by the natural deposit of wind-blown sand with distinct features and shape. Wind changes the direction and velocity of much deposit, causing them to move from one location to another. The active domes can be divided by the three types: branches, transverse domes, longitudinal domes. When we say barchans, these domes, which are shaped like a new moon in plan, are rather widespread. They're triangular in shape, upside and facing away from the wind, and an angle of roughly 30 to 230 degrees to the horizontal. On the windward side, the gradually sloping side form an angle roughly 10 to 150 with horizontal. They become a variety of sizes with a maximum height of 335 meters and a horn-to-horn with 350 meters. Transfer stones, it is a section. A row transfer stones is similar to a branchance, but it is not carried in plan like a branchance. Thus, its longer exists in widely transverse to the prevailing winds. Longitudinal domes are extended sand ridge with a longer axis that runs roughly parallel to the prevailing wind direction. When viewed from side, they appeared to be triangular with an average height of 3 meters and a height of 200 meters. Lewis is the smallest dust particle that moves suspended with the wind or carried a long distance. These have been dissolved to a collect of various components in the form of paper hint laminae, which have aggregated together to create a huge deposit known as Lewis when thrown down under suitable condition. Engineering consideration. In general, no site on the moving domes is chosen for any sort of essential work since such domes are always a source of problems for an engineer. It has been observed that the shifting domes may occasionally cause harm to major works of art. If an engineering is forced to choose such as location, specific procedures for checking the motion of the shifting domes should be used. Geological works of sea. We got oxygen, food, drinking water, raw materials, and even recreation and culture from marine ecosystem. Over half of the world oxygen is produced by the ocean, which also absorbs 50 times more carbon dioxide than our atmosphere. It also controls the planet's temperature and home to some of the world's largest animals. That's all for my report, and thank you for listening.